Hi, it's been a couple minutes here, so we'll just get start and people can catch up and ask questions if they need to as we get going. First of all, I'm Nathan Fouarge. I'm VP of Strategic Solutions here at NovaStore. Alongside me, I have Gary Thomas, Senior Technician at Buffalo. We'll be going through this webinar. Couple quick things on this webinar. It is going to be recorded. We're going to do the giveaway at the end of the webinar after we go through a couple slides here and a quick demo, and then we'll have questions and answers at the end of it. Please let me know if you're having issues hearing me, and we can try to work on that, but looks like from a couple people they can hear me just fine. Other than that, we're just going to go quick overview here. So the agenda today, I have a quick overview of a couple things on data protection, then on backup automation. I'll do a quick demo on some of the backup automation that I'll talk about, some common mistakes to avoid when dealing with data protection, and then I'll hand it over to Gary over at Buffalo to talk about some of the unique features and functions that Buffalo brings to the table when you're using their devices, and some of the services that they have. The giveaway after that, and then questions and answers after that. All right, so we'll start with simplifying data protection. So, it comes down to what, when, and where you want to back up to. So what, you have to first identify the crucial business data. Is it a doctor's office that has a bunch of medical data that they have to take care of? Is it, accounting firm that has a bunch of things that they need to take care of, just, Excel documents or what have you? Small business has QuickBooks, or, another firm that has a bunch of CAD drawings, what have you. The first thing that you have to do is make sure that you know what is critical to the business in order to function, and what you need to back up. And then along with that, you need to look at what essential applications are being used. Take for example, if they're using like AutoCAD or something like that. If they're using AutoCAD, what's the recovery procedure for getting that AutoCAD machine back up and running? Can you move that to a different machine through an image, or is that node locked to something? Make sure that you kind of have an idea of what's going on with the applications that are being in use in that business, and then make sure that you have the systems that you really need to protected. The entire systems, maybe the domain controller, file server, what have you. Make sure that you have a good image of that. And then kind of the what and when kind of mixed together. When should you be doing backups? Every day. In some cases, depending on what a customer is using, you might have to have backups done multiple times during a day. We kind of recommend differential file backups. That way, you only really need that differential file backup along with that full file backup in order to recover. You don't need every incremental backup in between. And then, every week, depending on the size of the customer that you're dealing with, doing a full backup every day could be good, but if they don't have a lot of space available in whatever backup they're going to, maybe it's every week. And then making sure that you do a system image backup of their important systems at least once a month is really recommended. And then we get back to our famous 3-2-1 backup rule. Making sure that you have 3 copies of the data, stored on at least 2 different types of media, with at least one being located offsite. Especially with all of the, new ransomware variants and everything else that's happening in the world, making sure that you have something offsite is really, really crucial now. It used to be, we'll do offsite when we get to it, when I get money or budget. But now it's just a must in this world. Something else that we see every day here in NovaStore in our support is, if you're relying on manual processes, the backup's just going to fail. you're not going to have good backups. Making sure that you have a standard backup job. Standardize everything on your backup jobs, your notifications, scheduling it, making sure that you're not worrying about the end user actually having to delete things or move things around. Automate as much as you can. And that's including the reporting, whether it's email reporting or using our free tool, the central monitoring console. Anything like that, you need to make sure it's as automated as possible, so there's no reliance on anyone manually doing anything, manually kicking off a backup job or anything like that. Speaking of automation, I just want to go through just a really quick demo of the actual backup software, NovaBACKUP, to show you how easy it is to automate some of that stuff. So what you should be able to see at this point, if I get it correctly there, I'll show you NovaBACKUP itself. So something that we see in NovaBACKUP support that can really help people is, before you do anything else, make sure you have your default settings the way you want them. So the default settings, this is applied for every backup job that you create after you create the default settings. So you can go into these settings and say, hey, I want to make sure that the open file backup is enabled. I want to change my default destination to, in this case, it's a Buffalo Terra station. Change my verification mode from just the normal verification to fully advanced verification. Setting out my write mode so it doesn't overwrite my backup jobs all the time, and setting the default backup mode, in this case, full. Then you also want to make sure that you have your email notifications set up. So in this case, I have it set up so it's going to email me every time a backup runs. And then I also have, I'll go through this a little bit later in a different slide, what user I want this backup job to run as. In this case, it's just my normal domain user, but in a lot of cases, you're going to have a specialized backup user. And then you can also set up things like, in this case, I have it connecting to a central monitoring server also. So that's to show you that. So if I create a new backup job here, so actually I've already created a new backup job. Say if I wanted, I don't know, I'll just pick up the entire C drive, but I don't really care about the Windows directory. My backup destination is already set, but I'll set this again and just say full backup, actually full file backup. And then if you look in here, all my settings are already set. So enable open file backup is there, advanced verification, write mode's already set there, my notifications are already set, and the user that I want this to run as is set. So I can save this backup job as full file backup, and then I could schedule that if I wanted to. Say I just want daily and I want it to run every Friday, and say at 11 p.m. I'm running as that specific user again, and I'm set. And if I want to just create that differential job, it's as simple as going into here, changing this to differential. And then I would also change it here too for that. And then I could save this as differential backup job. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, you don't have to do a whole lot of things with the backup jobs themselves to automate it correctly. So, I mean, this is the full and differential backup jobs that I was talking about in the previous slide. And then you could set up the image backup if you wanted to. But with that, I want to go back into the application real quick. some of the things that we see here, especially in NovaBACKUP support, is things that if someone would have spent 5 minutes, extra 5 minutes just setting this up would really help. Like I said before and showed there, is standardizing your backup setup. Making sure that everything is very similar to the other backup jobs that you set up for different customers, so you know how things are set up. Something that not a whole lot of people do, but they really should, is to set up a specialized backup account. So when I went through the backup software just a few minutes ago, I used my domain account. That's locally admin too. But in a really good setup, I would suggest setting up a specific backup user that has local admin access or local access to whatever you're backing up, but it also doesn't have access that it doesn't need. So maybe it doesn't have login rights or anything like that to the machine, but just making sure that whatever user you're running that backup job as has access to whatever it needs to back up, but is limiting the access of other things in case that particular backup account gets compromised for whatever reason. Another thing I really didn't show is how I'm connecting to that Buffalo NAS. In the software, you can actually set up specific credentials for that NAS location, and that's what I'm using. So even though the backup software can see that NAS and write to that NAS and delete things from that NAS, it's all because of the credentials that are stored within NovaBACKUP. My actual user in Windows can't actually get to that NAS or delete or add things to that particular share that I'm backing up to. And here's something that a lot of people don't think about until it's too late. Writing down a recovery plan. So I have these image backups going. I have my full backups going and differential backups going. Everything's great for my backup side. Something happens, CryptoLocker comes in or hard drive fails or what have you. Entire disaster. I go to recover from my image backup. That goes fine. I reboot after the image recovers, but something I kind of forget about is, hey, I might have had a scheduled backup running or a retention running that might have been missed because of the last image backup that I recovered from. So the first thing it does is NovaBACKUP's going to say, hey, I see this missed job. If you don't tell it not to do that job, it might run that job. And if you have, say, your other recovery media there and it's older than whatever your retention settings are, I've seen this, delete the media that you need to actually recover from because they didn't think about, okay, I recovered and went to do something else, rebooted and everything was good, and all of a sudden NovaBACKUP ran again to retent data that's outside of the retention window, and it deleted the data that they needed to actually recover because they weren't cognizant of what happens and what they need to do in that event of a disaster that they need to recover from. So that's something that it doesn't seem like it's something that you need to do all the time or update that often, but it's one of those things that you really need to write it down so that when and if it happens, that you have a good idea of, okay, here's the steps I need to go through, here's what I need to make sure and be cognizant of in case something happens, so I don't either get rid of my media that I need or other things that maybe I need to move a USB dongle or what have you, or call the software place to relicense something because it's node locked, what have you. Those are just a couple things that we see here in the NovaScore support that just taking those few extra minutes would really help. And with that, I'm going to give it over to Gary here.
All right, thank you, Nathan. All right, so those of you who aren't familiar with Buffalo, we've been around about a little over 40 years. We're a U.S. subsidiary of a Japanese company. Our Japanese headquarters is in Nagoya, Japan. Our North American headquarters for Buffalo Americas is here in Austin, Texas. We've been doing this for a long time. Our tech support has won several awards over the last few years. We build purpose-built devices specifically for the SMB market. Some of our devices can bleed up into maybe small enterprise, but our primary target is always going to be SMB. You're always available for you or your customers if you need to discuss something before a purchase is made, and our support is always available after the purchase is made. Our support is located in San Antonio, Texas. It's U.S.-based. It's available 24/7. So if you or your customer have a problem, you can always pick up the phone and get a hold of us. All right, Nathan, go ahead.
Certainly.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, Nathan mentioned that we always recommend having offsite backup. Well, one of the ways you can do that is using the TerraStation's built-in replication. So it's very simple to do, very easy to set up. It can be done either through a VPN or just over the internet. If you're just going over the open internet, we recommend using encryption on the wire. All of our TerraStation 3010 and 5010 series devices have built-in 256-bit AES encryption, so you can encrypt that data at rest and encrypt it on the wire to make sure that your sensitive data is secure. So with a VPN, obviously that becomes easier. If you don't have a VPN or you don't want the expense of setting up a VPN to do this, then it can be done. The TerraStation can encrypt that data for you. So it's very easy to set up. We can replicate data from one TerraStation to another, whether that's maybe you rent a little bit of space in a colo somewhere, or even stick one at maybe the CEO's house or something, if you don't want to incur that expense. This can be set up to run either synchronously or asynchronously, so you can you can have that replication done immediately or schedule that replication. Obviously, it depends. It's very dependent on bandwidth. So if you have a huge replication to start with, you might want to put both units in one location and then move it. And if you do have to do a big recovery and you have a lot of data to move, you can always just pull that TerraStation into the office and get it on the local network. And this is the fact that everything can be encrypted. Data can be encrypted at rest, on the wire. Everything's taken very secure. It helps you to meet, if you have maybe a doctor's office where they need to meet HIPAA compliance. They've got all their main systems are all set up very secure. Want to make sure that backup stays secure as well. So you can encrypt the backup files on the TerraStation and then encrypt them as they replicate over to another TerraStation to another location. All right, Nathan? All right, we can also do scheduled automated backups. So if you happen to be using the TerraStation maybe as your primary file server rather than a backup target, then you can also do scheduled backups set up very similar to what NovaBACKUP is capable of doing. Set up scheduled backups for daily and weekly backups from one TerraStation to another. Let you have that same backup rotation. And remember that anytime you buy a TerraStation, you're automatically going to get 11 licenses for NovaStore's NovaBACKUP. That includes 1 server license and 10 workstation licenses. Obviously, you can always get a hold of NovaStore if you need additional licenses or maybe one of their upgraded products, and they're always very happy to work with Buffalo customers. And again, all of this can be automated. You set it up, and obviously you always want to monitor it. You want to make sure that occasionally look at it and make sure everything's working right. But it doesn't require daily maintenance. You don't have to worry about, okay, is my data being backed up? It's being taken care of. All right. All right. In addition, now, if you ignore all of our warnings and don't do your regular backups and decide that backups are a waste of time, then what we can offer you is if you have purchase a Buffalo Terra station or any Buffalo storage device, and something catastrophic happens, we do offer a data recovery service as well. We cover shipping to us and return shipping back to you. If the recovery is a simple logical recovery, we'll do it for free. If it is not a logical recovery, if there's physical damage and hard drives have to be opened up to recover the data, then we'll get you a quote on that before anything is started. And as always, we incur all the shipping costs. And if you decide not to go with the data recovery, if it's outside your budget, we'll return everything to you at no cost. There's no that wouldn't cost you a thing. So just want to keep that in mind. Of course, if you listen to Nathan and to us and the advice in this webinar, then you should never need this, right? But if you decide that we're all that we're blowing everything out of proportion and backups aren't necessary, then you also may have this option as well. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand things back over to Nathan.
All right, perfect, Gary. So before we get into the questions and that type of thing, let's do the drawings. I think my lovely assistant here has found some people. Let's see. For the Amazon gift certificate, we'll do Herb Lane. Will be that, and we'll contact you for all the information on that. And then for the Buffalo Drive, I might butcher this one, Adam Stansberry, and we'll again we'll send out the information on that to get that out to you guys. And with that, let's get into the questions and answers of this wonderful webinar here. There's a few of them already here, so let's see if we can get some of them. Here's a question that we hear a lot. Thanks for bringing that up. What happens when my machine is off? Say it's a laptop apparently, and the backup is scheduled. What happens to that scheduled backup? So with NovaBACKUP, what it's going to do is it's going to put it in basically a missed backup pool. So the next time that machine comes up, NovaBACKUP will start and it'll actually ask you, hey, we see a missed backup happened here. The backup was missed. We're going to run that in 15 minutes unless you tell us not to run that. So that's kind of how that works. This one would be a good one for you, Gary. Can you replicate from one Terra station to multiple Terra stations? I guess is what he's asking here.
Sure, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can set up one Terra station to have multiple targets. Usually, what will happen is maybe you have multiple folders on the Terra station. You want to send that data to different places. You can also set it up so that you replicate from one Terra station to another, and then have that Terra station, that target Terra station, also replicate that data to another Terra station. So there's a couple of ways to go about that. But there's always a way to make sure that you have multiple copies of your data. Obviously, Nathan mentioned the 3-2-1 rule, but that 3 copies of your data is a minimum. If you want 8 copies, go for it.
Yep. Here's another good question. What's the largest drive size in a Terra station right now?
Right now, the largest drive size we're shipping are 10 terabyte drives, and those are available in our Terra Station 3010 and 5010 devices. So that'll give you up to, with a Terra Station 51210, that's a 12-bay device, you get up to 120 terabytes raw space.
Yeah, that would almost cover my movie collection at home. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see.
I need to come over to your house, Nathan.
Yeah, I haven't used a DVD or Blu-ray except to rip them for a long time. So yeah. Anyhow, let's see another backup related thing. Question on Windows Server 2019. Yes, NovaBACKUP does support Windows Server 2019. We have since it was released. I heard, I think, from one of the tech guys that SQL Server 2019 was just released. I don't know if we have certification for that as of yet from QA, but it's something that we're usually pretty good on and pretty quick on supporting. So we can follow up on that to see if that's past QA yet. But we did just release 19.3. What was that? About a month ago, a little over a month ago. So there might be another patch that we have to do for 19.3, or it might go into 19.4 for that official release there. On imaging, okay. Yeah, something that was introduced in 19.3 for imaging is the question is, can I boot an image directly to a VM? So with 19.3, we introduced a new feature with the imaging process in order to being able to back up direct to VHD or VHDX. So with backing up directly to VHDX, you basically have that virtual hard drive already set up, so you can make a Hyper-V VM very, very quickly based on that. I think we have a couple new YouTube videos specifically on that on the NovaBACKUP support page if you want to go through that. All right. Yeah. 10 gig functionality on NAS devices. So they're asking if you have to put any special network cards or anything like that. If you have to put a network card in for 10 gig functionality on a TerraStation.
So all the TerraStation 5010 series devices have 10 gigabit Ethernet built in. It's copper based, so it's an RJ45 connector. The TerraStation 3010 and 5010 series are ARM-based devices, so there's no PCIe slots. There's nothing. There's no way to add hardware to it. But like I said, all the 5010 devices have at least one 10 gigabit Ethernet port, and the 12-bay rack mount device has two. So that's already ready to go.
Okay, cool. With that, that's all the questions that I see right now. If anyone has any further questions, we'll be here for the next couple minutes, but I want to thank everyone for their time. Hopefully this webinar was useful for you. And if there is any questions after this, please just shoot us an email and we can certainly get to you. We have knowledge bases out there for the software, and if there's anything else that we can help you with, please let us know. So Gary, I want to thank you for joining me on the webinar, and with that, I think I'll give you the rest of the day.
Thank you for having us, Nathan.
Hey, thank you.